Hello all, welcome to Success Channel. Today we'll be discussing on cost management of in-house legal department. We have expert speaker, Mr. Rohit Salwaan. He has 19 years of experience into litigation, non-litigation, recovery of amounts due, and into management of a legal department in a huge size companies. Myself, Abhijeet Tople, I am head of legal for Geo Financial Services. And I'm also looking into drafting, vetting of agreements, litigation management, legal advisory, etc. So my first question to you, Mr. Rohit, is why cost management is very critical for in-house departments?
Yeah, thanks, Abhijeet. Very interesting topic, actually, cost management. I think it's a what you call a favorite topic of all the, I think, stakeholder also, the businesses also, because everything works on a balance sheet, and balance sheet have an item of profit and loss both. So it is managed by cost only. So and cost control, cost management, cost what we call it. So it's a very critical item in any kind of a balance sheet terms for that matter. So when we are talking about cost, why it is critical? Because obviously as a profit loss item in a balance sheet, and 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 once you have committed something, some figure, and if you didn't you didn't stick to that figures, obviously it will hit on the PLN side of the balance sheet, and if it hits the PNL side of the balance sheet, obviously the entire the numbers, the figure that management has given to the board or board has given further to the investors, everything becomes very imbalanced for the matter. So obviously it's not about legal. Every department, be it sales, operations, or any departments, or credit for that matter, all departments should stick to their figures, to the budget figures, whatever they are taking in terms of the cost. Yes, it's critical, very critical item from balance sheet perspective also, and yes, from a man management and cost management perspective also.
Right, right. So I'm also of the same view. Actually, each and every department is supporting in development of the organization. Now, if particular department is not supporting the business, then definitely it will lead to a lot of expenditure on costs, legal cost, as well as cost to the business, because at the end of the day, we are losing business. If legal is taking time to execute work, then definitely those days they are wasting on, the business is wasting on all this legal stuff, and then they are not actually doing the business and losing a lot of revenue. So indirectly, it's actually a loss for the business. So legal department is a very critical component when it comes to cost management. Mr. Rohit, what factors you most consider while setting up the budget?
Look, from legal department, if we'll talk about the budget item or the cost item, everybody knows. So we have a precedent always in terms of the cost. Like last financial year, we have a precedent in hand. We have a figures in hand, how much we have spent, what are the volume that we have played on the last year. Obviously, that will be one of the figures which can be very good item from comparative analysis point of view. So if we'll take out the last financial year figures, we'll compare vis-a-vis the volume, we'll able to understand what is the terms of growth that we are projecting for the next year. And obviously from that perspective only, let's say if you're taking a 10% growth from sales perspective, so evaluating that growth and how much will be the we can anticipate a litigations from these numbers. Obviously the collection numbers will also be there if you are supporting a recovery department. So all those numbers that collection has taken, the sales has taken, all that has to be put together, understand, analysis, and then we have to come out with the revised cost for the next year. It may be a reducing cost also, it may be an increasing cost also. It all depends actually. That is one very important factor, what we have done last year and what are we projecting next year, so that a complete and balanced budget can be easily framed out. So when we're talking about the recovery, I told you the three figures: the sales department figure, the collection department figures, that needs to be mapped very correctly. If we are typically on the corporate side, the vetting of the agreements, if it is outsourced or there are against cases. So obviously we know year on year basis how many against cases that we are anticipating. And vis-a-vis the volume that we are anticipating, we can add those, volume to average that effect also. So that is one way of doing it and making a budget for that matter. And obviously the inflation side also we need to see if any vendor has increased the cost. So that also we need to understand. So these are the basic the factors that we need to consider while mapping a budget or preparing a budget for that.
Right.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I guess we should look after even our human capital as well. So
Correct.
as long as they are with us, the cost of the department may not change. And
Correct. I
that
agree.
should
I
be
agree.
one of the point we should take into consideration. In
Yeah.
addition to that, as far as possible, if you are taking all the legal work which is we are giving to outside law firms and all, if you are doing
Correct.
that in-house, I guess we can save lot of cost for an organization. For an example, in
Hmm.
last 5 years, I have drafted all the agreements, everything in-house, legal documentation, and I have saved all the cost for an organization. So basically, from last 5 years, I haven't discussed anything with any legal law firm or a lawyer. So
Correct.
the cost, the budgeting can be stabilized if we actually, get all such work in-house and do it in-house, right?
Correct.
So, sir, how to monitor budget?
Correct. So the next step, once we have formulated with the budget, obviously we have to be, every person in the department, every team member in the department has to be very disciplined, that it has to be followed with a, absolutely to its soul, to its core, to its DNA. And if you'll not been able to, follow the budget, follow the number, will not respect the numbers, at the end of the year will be will be at the receiving ends. And obviously we'll be hitting our figures, maybe hitting a P&L item of the balance sheet. So yes, to monitor a budget, obviously the basic tools that we can say, it has to be reviewed properly for that matter. Monitoring budgets, first and very important thing is freeze all the cost. I think all the costs we need to freeze, and no deviation to be given from that, from the freezing point. All the thresholds to be freeze at the very, one day. So no new vendor will be appointed above that threshold. Any deviation has to be approved. So those are the basic features. Whenever the invoice comes, every time, the month and, the where we stand actually, that on Y basis, on that, budget versus expense basis, that needs to be checked and evaluated. Suppose an invoice comes to a head of the department, he need to understand where do we stand on a budget today. Are we exceeding the budget? Are we at par of the budget or what? That needs to be understood. And some very important thing is provisioning of all the expenses on a timely basis is the key. If we have not provisioned, we will never know what is in our hand, how many work we have, outsourced, how many vendors we have paid, have we taken a no due certificate from the vendors or not. So all these are very critical things while monitoring the budget. So obviously, the quarterly basis review or a monthly basis review or a half quarterly or half yearly basis review, we need to be very disciplined. One has to be, follow that while monitoring any kind of budget. I'm saying it's not about legal, any budget. So typically a review, timely review is a very critical thing while monitoring any budget.
Right. Mr. Rohit, what are the steps you take to manage the legal cost?
Look, as I told you, first of all, register all your cost related, information in some central software kind of thing. I don't know, people are working on a spreadsheets kind of things also, but obviously spreadsheets, when Excel sheets, when we talk, we'll talk about, but typically, human intervention. And when we talk about human intervention, obviously there will be a slippages. So it's better to have a software in hand, or, some central repository where you can dump all your data, you store everywhere, so that it can be easy to analysis also. That is one part which is very critical. Something which is, centrally storage all cost, all budget, so that it can be easily analyzed for that matter. Second is, as I told earlier also, monitor and review cost vis-a-vis budget on a very periodical basis. That is very, very critical. For me, every time you approve a invoice, you should always look into the budget item. Where do I stand as on date? Whether provisions have been properly made or not. No invoice should be approved if it is not provided on timely basis. So if you will not, if you will not follow the discipline of costing, expenses, budget, nothing. You will not going to achieve anything at the end of the day. And we are only doing a reconciliation with vendor also, with management also. And that's absolutely a waste of time, and nobody is going to gain anything from that point of view. The third critical thing is set the rules, or maybe freeze all the costs, as I told you. All the stereotype activities that we are doing, all the activities, cost has to be freezed at a threshold level, and nobody is going to cross that threshold limit. For example, if I've given, if we have freeze one amount for one activity, it has to be respected across year. If we're not going to respect it, nobody is going to achieve anything. And we should also know the kind of volume we are giving or we are outsourcing. Actually, that is also very critical. And obviously, do not file litigation only for the sake of filing it. We should have a proper due diligence, and especially from recovery perspective, I'm saying don't file for the sake of filing it. If you do not have, I'll just give you one small example. If you do not know the whereabouts of the customer, there is no point filing a litigation on that customer. Let trace the customer at the first, and then you will file a litigation. You will get a better result also on a same expense. Otherwise, you'll end up having expense also, and there is no customer. I don't know where to take that litigation forward. So that is also very critical. And the last but not least is the outsourcing of activities is very critical. What activities to be outsourced, and at what threshold items you need to outsource, what on terms of pecuniary level also, and at a critical level also. So when you control that, the what should go outside the organization is very critical. Means what kind of matters on a pecuniary level or at the critical level should be outsourced, and what are the matter we need to keep it in-house. Obviously, you'll have an in-house team also. There are non-critical items over the plate, but there is no point giving it to the advocate. Right. It can be easily made at the in-house level also. So that is also very critical when you outsource any matter to the law firm. Also, law firms are also at a very different grading. So what matter needs to be given to what law firm is also very important. There is no point giving a very non-critical item to a very high-stake law firm. So you end up inflating your expenses also and screwed up your budget also for that matter. So that is also very important. What needs to be outsourced, what needs to be kept in-house. So there is a balance with one need to be strive between in-house item as well as the outsource item. And when I'm talking about this, one thing is very, very important. When you want to keep something in-house, obviously you need to be, tax savvy, or technology has to comes very handy in order to release the bandwidth of an in-house team. In-house team is not being able to take the load of all these non-critical items or litigation, which is not of very great stake. They're able to do it, but only if their bandwidth is actually free. So how can we free their bandwidth? Obviously, the non-legal matters there. So we need to find a solution technologically or somehow, so that the bandwidth of the team should not be choked or should not be occupied in doing non-legal or paralegal kind of activity. Once you are done with that, I think the bandwidth will be absolutely free to absorb that pressure also. So that is also very critical, to ease the bandwidth of in-house counsel so that they'll be able to take the load which has been outsourced that way. So technology is one thing which comes very handy in all these kind of situations to meet budget, expense, and ease the bandwidth of in-house. Yeah, so these are the critical steps what I see where you can manage the legal cost.
Right. I feel in addition to that, we should have a very good relations with outside law firms, so that during
Correct.
discussion we can actually reduce the cost of the assignments given to these firms and all. Throughout the year, we should look into what exactly the cost we are actually spending on various legal work, and accordingly jot down what exactly we can do in house. For example, if we can do agreement drafting in house, entire agreement drafting piece, so we should take that agreement drafting piece in house. Litigation, definitely we have to give to the lawyers, but then before filing all those litigations outside, can we actually settle those disputes before proceeding to the court? That also we should think, because at the end of the day, litigation cost is a huge cost for an organization. And if we really want to do business and grow business, what we have to do is we have to look into the litigation, whether really this litigation is worth or not. If the litigation is not worth and the other party is also ready to settle, obviously the party should settle and close the dispute. So the settling of the dispute, then the speed of execution is also very important, I guess. During the year, what exactly in-house legal team has done with the work? Is it really with the speed and in coordination with all the legal business and other departments, that we have to understand and then provide our services, legal services accordingly? Because at the end of the day, we are supporting the business. We are business. We are part and parcel of the business. So speed of execution is also important, to manage the legal cost of the project. For an example, if we are negotiating particular agreement for 1 year, for an example, right? So entire 1 year, we are just negotiating the agreement and not doing the exact business, what the parties actually intend to do. So what we can do is we can actually negotiate that agreement in a shorter period of time by discussing each and every clause with in-house internal departments, and closing that agreement as early as possible, so that we can do, and indirectly we can save huge costs for an organization. We can actually help business to grow also in the form of business. So for an example, additional example, last 5 years, as I said, I have not used any law firm, drafted all the agreements in house. I have drafted more than 700 agreements in just 2 years. So and saved huge costs. Basically, it might be in crores, right? So accordingly, you can actually help organizations and save huge cost to the organization. And I guess our legal fraternity is having that capability to deliver work in a shorter period of time, and definitely they must be saving huge costs for an organization. So you have any additional inputs, Mr. Rohit?
Yeah, just to add into that, we should also, as a legal department, we should also open to, the new technological avenues also. Like I'll give you an example. I'll again give an example of, the collection and the recovery departments, because legal as a support services to them, lots of cost, lots of expense actually goes to that head. And we send a lot of notices in a bulk to customer, be it demand notice, be it loan recall notice, be it penal notices for that matter. So many those notices can be actually put into bulk notices can be sent by way of technology, be it WhatsApp. I'm just giving you one small example.
That's a great
so
idea.
that the cost of sending one WhatsApp will be 10 times, 20 times what will send it to the send it through ordinary post, and it is a quicker way of doing it. You will get an immediate delivery report also, and you will get a very good connect also with the customer. So I just give you one small example. There are so many other technological avenues. We should be open to that. So with a closed bent of mind, or with a making a back to a technology, putting a back to a technology, not going to serve anything. Technology could be initial cost could hit you at the initial level, but if you talk in a long run, it will actually make you, it will actually save you a lot of money from the time.
Right.
So yes, we should be open to all the new modes of technological avenues, which actually help us in the contract management from the perspective that I'll take your example only. Management is one of the finest things. There are so many companies which are offering the contract management software. So those are the software which actually help you in reducing the cost at the longer level, because the renewal of the so many contracts are moving, but who is taking care of renewals or the expiry or the termination of the contract? Nobody actually. Every stock holder is managing their contract.
Right.
But if you have a central reservoir, when when this contract needs to be renewed, when this contract needs to be terminated, so the timely actions, what do you call, the penny save is penny earn kind of thing. So these are the small steps that if you actually consider will save a lot of money from any department basically. Yeah.
And I guess companies can also save huge costs, litigation costs, legal costs, drafting costs, etc., if they are considering a proper team leader and a legal team, basically. And what I found is that most of the companies, they see that legal is a cost to an organization, and they just appoint people with a lower costs and all. So they should see the knowledge level of the person instead of looking into the cost at which they are
Correct.
getting
I
those
agree.
people, because
I agree.
after 1 year or 2 years or 5 years down the line, they'll definitely be facing the consequences of what they did 5 years back. So
Correct. I agree.
definitely cost management, not only legal department, but company should also think about cost management, and indirectly the loss they will face in future. They should consider that, and accordingly they should appoint the teams, legal teams, and get the services from that. One additional thing which I observed is, if you are taking outside law firm services, or even some legal departments in-house, they just keep negotiating a lot of stuff, and they spend time on negotiating, sharing documents internally, and getting opinions internally. That speed can be increased. If the company is paying fees, they should increase the speed, and they should see that the business deal is done in a shorter period of time, so that the
Correct. I
legal
agree.
cost will not be a cost for organization anymore. Right? Companies will definitely, with a happy face, they will appoint legal teams in-house, and they'll also take services from law firms, without considering their cost also, if they are getting good execution of documents with a speed. You have any inputs?
Correct. No, I think at the end of the day, the saying, the cost save is a cost earn.
Yeah.
That's the mantra. That's the mantra of any budget, any expense, any PLN item for that.
Right. Right.
Even though legal department is a support services, but still we can put value addition to the P&L item by saving a lot of cost.
Yeah.
And putting just putting all the club, stopping all the leakages, whatever you will find. So if you able to evaluate those kind of leakages, right time you need to put a patch on those leakages. I think the purpose will be served. The cost save is the cost.
And as you know, in our recovery and NBFC banks and all, and recovery litigation, mostly what happens is, for filing FIR, we take help from outside lawyer. So that is a
Correct.
cost for organization. And what you did, I did in earlier stints. It's actually, we were supporting these local, branch managers or recovery guys
Correct. Correct.
to
I
go
agree.
there and file an FIR. So we can actually save indirectly a lot of cost for organizations, and
Exactly.
help in development of the business.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mr. Rohit, for joining Success
Yeah.
Channel
Thank
and
you so much.
guiding people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.